This is a new Porsche GT4 RS, and on paper it has the potential to be Porsche's best driver's car. Now in this video we're going to find out if that's true and whether it's as tasty as my rather delicious instant noodle snack. Because first things first, right? Beef and tomatoes, my favourite flavour. Buy, sell, Carwow. Let's start this video by talking about the engine. So just like the normal GT4, the GT4 RS has a flat 6 4-litre naturally aspirated engine. However, it's a completely different engine. You see, the one in the GT4 is the engine from the 911 Turbo, but without the turbos fitted to it. The engine here is the same motorsport-derived engine you have in the 911 GT3 Cup cars and the GT3 Road car. The result is 500 horsepower, which is actually 10 horsepower less than you get in the 911 GT3. Reason being that in order to fit the engine to this 718, Porsche has to turn it around, and so it needs a longer exhaust, which reduces the power somewhat. However, you still have 80 horsepower more than you get with a normal GT4. Also, torque is up from 420 in the normal GT4 to 450 Newton meters here. The red line's higher as well. This thing revs to 9,000 RPM compared to the 8,000 RPM red line in the normal GT4. Still drives the rear wheels only, and you have a 7-speed dual clutch automatic gearbox with launch control, and you know what that means. Porsche says this car will do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds, but what is the reality? Well, I'm going to time it myself using my specialist timing gear up here. I'm going to launch it. Here we go. Oh, struggle with traction. 3.57. What's the quarter mile? 11.51, quarter mile. I reckon we can go quicker. Here we go, let's try again. That hooked up better, 3.30. Oh yes, that was better. And a quarter mile time of 11.26. Oh, that's impressive. Now, if you pause the video, we're actually going to put on screen some other times of similar comparable cars to see how they did. Obviously, 0 to 60 and 70 quarter mile times aren't this car's main focus. It's more about the driving experience and the handling. And Porsche has gone to town on the GT4 RS's chassis. So they're starting with the 718 GT4 as the basis, but then have turned things up a notch or two. So you get uprated springs, so they're stiffer. Car also sits 10 millimeters lower to the ground than a standard GT4, which incidentally is already 20 millimeters lower to the ground than a standard 718 Cayman. Then you have uprated dampers, and of course they're adaptive as standard. You also have a slightly wider track at the front by 6 millimeters and 8 millimeters wider track at the back. There's increased camber as well. You've got hollow anti-roll bars and carbon fiber drop links, just like on the 911 GT3. Oh yes. Now let's find out what all those chassis upgrades mean when you're out on a twisty road. So one of the things that Porsche has tried to do with this car is differentiate it from the GT3 and the forthcoming GT3 RS, which are moving towards more track bias. So this is supposed to still function really well on the road as well as on the track. So let's try it. So this route I'm doing is just like a country road. So there's undulations, there's odd camber changes, there's bumps. I've got the suspension in its softest setting, which is still firm, but it does go over bumps pretty well because the damping's so good. The brakes as well, they don't feel grabby, these carbon ceramics. Oh. Oh, you can feel it just hook up, and the steering is just so nice. It's just keyed into the road. Love it. And you can feel the car moving about beneath you as you change direction, but it's all very predictable and manageable. Oh, and then there's a throttle response to that engine, and you've got all the revs, of course. I've got the gearbox in its sportiest setting, so real fast changes. Oh, and the stability control, I could see it just kick in a bit there to help me out, but I didn't notice it, apart from the light flickering on the dash. Oh my gosh, you can thrash this on a country road. It's so well set up for it, it really is. It isn't compromised on road. That's good news. The GT4 RS isn't only good to drive, it's also good to look at as well. There's some serious upgrades over the normal GT4. So Porsche fitted it with a carbon fiber bonnet. You've got these vents in the bonnet which actually feed air through ducts to cool the brakes. You've got an extended front splitter there with the GT4RS badging on it, and it has these side blades on it as well to smooth airflow down the side of the car. There's also these vents in the front wings to relieve pressure from the wheel arches, reduce lift, and the wings themselves at the front are made out of carbon fibre, and they're specially sculpted to once again aid airflow down the side of the car. Speaking of which, there's an inlet on each side of the car here where you'd normally have the little quarter light, and that's a great location because it means that the air intake is right by your ear hole. More on that later. Moving to the wheels, 20-inch alloys as standard, and look, you've got centre locking nuts with the RS logo on. You can actually upgrade to magnesium wheels, and they'll save you 10 kilograms in unsprung mass, which is good. What's not good though is that they cost £10,000, which means you're paying £1,000 per kilo saved. Yeah, you wouldn't want to curb those, would you? No, that Fesson definitely doesn't think he'd like to curb those wheels. Anyhow, the biggest difference at the back isn't the GT4RS badging. Oh no, it is of course this massive carbon fibre spoiler which has that swan neck design. So it basically works like an upside down wing to improve downforce. In fact, the GT4RS has 25% more downforce than the standard GT4. All that aero is going to help give you more stability when you're going high speed on track. So I'm actually driving this car on more of a twisty circuit now. I'm not going to be going quick enough to really feel the benefit of that aero, but I've put the suspension in its firmest setting. Oh my God, this car, it just stays so flat through the bends, it really does. And as well, the balance with that mid-mounted engine, when you turn into a corner, you can really get the car rotating to help you turn in with less steering lock. It's so good. Brilliant on road, but also amazing on track, and you can really stretch the legs of this engine when you're on track, of course. Wow, this is so good. It does it all, track, road. Oh, love it. Here on the inside, the GT4RS gets Alcantara on the dash as standard, on the gear selector, on the door inlays, and on the steering wheel. And the steering wheel is the same sport steering wheel that you get in the GT4. However, as standard, you get the little centre marker there on it as well. You've also got GT4RS badging on the dials. You've got it on the sills as well. As standard, you get these lovely bucket sport seats, but if you don't want these, you can just have comfort seats as a no-cost option. Speaking of no-cost options, you can get a Club Sport pack, which includes the racing harnesses, a fire extinguisher, and a steel roll cage. Now, this particular car is fitted with a Visac pack, which includes lots of exposed carbon fibre here on the inside, exposed carbon fibre on the outside. So normally on the car, the carbon fibre will be covered up with paint, but here with the Visac, it is exposed. That costs more money to do that because you have to get the weaves all lined up. And as a result, the Visac pack costs £9,000. You do get Visac there on the headrest and a little plaque there though, which is good. Yeah. Also, you need the Visac pack in order to have the magnesium wheels. You can't have them without the Visac pack. And you can get a titanium roll cage with the Visac pack instead of the standard steel one. Now, this does all add to the cost. So the starting price of the GT4RS is £108,000, but this one with all the kit on it is £131,000, which interestingly is the exact same price that the 911 GT3 starts at. So, This car though, it can do 196 miles an hour, which is 1 mile an hour less than the GT3. By comparison, the normal GT4 has a top speed of 188 miles an hour. Now what you're probably thinking now though, everyone complained about the GT4 for its long gearing. Surely this car's gearing must be even longer. Not so. Porsche's actually shortened the gears on this car, so the ratios are actually closer together, apparently. Okay, let's see exactly what difference this shorter gearing makes. So the GT4 will do 82 miles an hour in second gear. If you have the PDK, slightly less, it's 75 miles an hour. That's still quite a lot of miles an hour for second gear. Let's see what this GT4RS does then. So I'm just going to wind it up. Get a second. What will be the top speed? So the GT4 red line's at 8,000 RPM, so this is doing 65 miles an hour at the red line of the GT4. Obviously I've got an extra 1,000 revs to play with, so what is it at 9,000? 72 miles an hour, 73 on the limiter. Can you hear me? So, top speed in second gear is 2 miles an hour slower in the GT4RS than the GT4, even though you've got an extra 1,000 RPM red line at 9,000 RPM. How's that for some Carwow science? Well, I'm out here on this mole, it's like a motorway environment. Let's see what this GT4RS is like when you're having to drive on the motorway to, say, get to your favourite bit of road or to a racing circuit. What's it like to live with? So what I'm going to do is reset the trick computer now, and I'm going to drive for 2 miles and get the average economy at 70 miles an hour on the motorway. And while I drive for 2 miles, it's a good time for me to explain what this car is like for just cruising about in. So first of all, I'm going to turn off the exhaust valve, so shut those. Car's instantly noticeably more quiet, less drony, and then it's all right actually. There's a bit of tyre noise, not as bad as a 911 GT3 for tyre noise. The suspension, you can feel it a little bit bouncy because of the firm springs, but the damping's so good that it's not uncomfortable. And the seating position is lush, and I actually quite like these seats. I could do quite a fair distance in them. What will the economy be? It's going to be crippling when you're just cruising around in this car. So in 7th, at 70, I'm doing about 3,000 RPM. Hopefully it's not going to be too bad, the economy. Like, people who are buying this car like, Matt, we don't care about this, mate. We're buying it whatever.
A few moments later.
Alright, I've done just over 2 miles, and now the average economy is 25 mpg. I will definitely take that. As standard, the GT4RS gets a stainless steel sports exhaust, but if you have the Visac pack, it gets automatically upgraded to this lovely titanium system. So let's have a listen to it. Go on, start the engine. Give it some revs. Okay, so we've got a bit of a soft limiter which stops you revving past 4,000 RPM when you're in park. However, if you put the car into drive, pull both pedals up, it then lets you rev a little bit higher. So now rev it up. Oh, that's better. Then you can rev to 7,000 RPM, though that's still 2,000 revolutions off the actual red line because of rules. The thing about this car isn't the noise it makes on the outside so much, because noise regs just affect everything these days, but there's no noise regulations inside the car, and because you've got that special air intake there right by your ear hole, oh, you can play this car like a musical instrument, especially with this PDK gearbox. It works so well. Listen to this. Oh, that is nuts. The best bit is the final 1,000 RPM. Just listen to the note change here when it goes from 8 through to 9. Listen to this. What? Buy this car just merely as a platform for that engine. It's worth the asking price alone, that engine. Ah. That's enough having fun. It's time to get serious. You see, the front boot on the GT4RS is only 125 litres, which is 25 litres less than the boot on the normal GT4. Reason being, these air ducts for the brakes take up space. But that's not the worst of it. It gets worse at the back. Actually, before we get there, now's a good time for me to tell you that if you're thinking about selling your car, you can do it through Carwow. It's completely free. All you have to do is click on the pop-out banner up there, follow the link in the description, then just upload some photos of your car, give a few details, and then our dealers will bid on your car to make sure you get a great price for it. Now, if you want to do that later today, just simply Google "Wow Me Carwow" and we will wow you. What won't wow you is the boot capacity here on the GT4RS. It's only 136 litres. The normal GT4 has 270 litres. What's that all about? Anyway, that brings me on to 5 annoying things about this car. Even though the GT4RS is brand new, the cable on which it's based has been around for a while now, which means you get Porsche's old infotainment system. And so while there's Apple CarPlay, there is no Android Auto. Though it doesn't really matter for me because look, that's pretty much the same size anyway, just stick that on. While this isn't technically a limited edition car, production will be limited. Porsche doesn't say by how many, but trust me, getting an allocation from your Porsche dealer will be quite tough unless you're willing to do them some favours. I know fabric door pulls are for reduced weight, they don't actually reduce weight much, and they are motorsport, but they're a bit of a fiddle to use, especially the way they only like extend from the back. You want them to extend both from the front and the back, then it feels more natural when you open the door. It's just a bit of a pain to use. This rear window is made out of lightweight glass, which is great, apart from the fact it doesn't have any heater elements in it, so it's going to be harder to be missed. You can't get this car with a manual gearbox at all. All GT4RSs are automatic. However, it's not all bad, because that brings me on to 5 cool things about this car. You see, with this PDK gearbox, you can actually clutch kick it like a manual. All you have to do is pull in both paddles, goes into neutral, build the revs, then release the paddles, and it'll clutch kick it sideways like that. It's so easy to do. The GT4RS sits pretty low to the ground, and you might be worried about grounding out your front splitter on a speed hump or when you're going up a steep driveway. Don't worry though, you can get a nose lift option which will raise the front up. Fortunately, this car doesn't have it, so I've had to employ someone to travel with me in the car to lift the car up physically themselves when we reach an obstacle. Go on. Yeah, it's rubbish. You're fired. This new GT4RS did a lap time of 7 minutes 9 seconds round the Nürburgring, which is 24 seconds quicker than the standard GT4. Oh no, I know what's coming now. Oh. Thanks to all the carbon fibre you get in this car as standard, it weighs 35 kilos less than a GT4, tipping the scales at 1,415 kilos, and that's without taking into account if you fit the carbon ceramic brakes and magnesium wheels, which will reduce the weight even further. The GT4RS gets uprated brakes, so you have 408mm discs up front, gripped by 6 piston calipers, and at the back you've got 380mm discs, gripped by 4 piston calipers. And the discs themselves, they are dimpled rather than drilled, because apparently that's even better for cooling and cleaning your brake pads. These are the optional carbon ceramics, which are a £6,000 upgrade. So then you get 410mm discs up front, gripped by 6 piston calipers. At the back there's 390mm discs gripped by 4 piston calipers. Okay, I'm going to do a brake test from 100 miles an hour and see how long it takes this car to stop. I'll also be measuring it from 70 miles an hour to 0 as well. So this car's in kilometres an hour, so about 160 kilometres an hour. I'll go over that though, so that it's recording the braking from 100. Okay, here we go. Full emergency stop now. Oh, right, let's see the distance. Distance from 100, 80 metres, and from 70 miles an hour, it's 39 metres. So then, what's my final verdict? Well, to tell you the truth, it's a bit rubbish. That pretty soon you won't be able to get cars like this anymore, because everything's going electric. So if you get the opportunity to buy a GT4RS, absolutely do it. You will not regret it. Right, you didn't think I was saying the car was rubbish, did you? It's awesome. Duh.